What if everything you ever wanted wasn't out of reach, but simply on the other side of consistency, self-discipline, and relentless focus? This isn't just another audiobook about success. This is a wake-up call. Welcome to Unbreakable Drive, your blueprint for becoming the kind of person who never quits, never crumbles, and never waits for permission to grow. This audiobook was created by DJA-Audiobook, a channel devoted to helping you train your mind, break through mental barriers, and take complete control of your life without fluff, shortcuts, or excuses. Because let's face it, most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they give up when it gets hard. You won't be one of them. In the chapters ahead, we'll show you how to master the mindset of resilience, build ironclad discipline that lasts, silence the voice of self-doubt, and stay consistent even when the world feels like it's falling apart. These aren't just ideas. They're tools. And if you use TM, you won't just survive, you'll rise. Whether you're stuck in a cycle of procrastination, battling with low confidence, or just tired of falling short of your potential, this book is the shift you've been waiting for. Because success doesn't come from luck, it comes from the discipline, to the focused, to the unstoppable. So if you're ready to stop watching your dreams from the sidelines, if you're prepared to show up, dig deep, and finally take control of your life, then let's begin. Chapter 1. The Fire Within. Igniting Motivation When the World Gives You None. There is a moment in every person's life when the noise fades and the unsettling quiet of self-confrontation remains. It's the moment when no one is watching or encouraging, and the usual sources of motivation, praise, validation, or excitement, have gone silent. This silence is not empty, however. It is full of questions. Who are you when there's no one to impress? What keeps you going when nothing around you is pushing you forward? For many people, this silence feels like the end. They interpret it as a sign that they've lost momentum, that they are no longer capable of growth or worthy of success. But this silence becomes the beginning for others, those who achieve long-term transformation. It's the exact moment when they stop relying on external voices and start listening to the one that truly matters, their own. Motivation, as the world often sells it, is misunderstood. It's depicted as a wave that hits you from nowhere and carries you forward with unstoppable energy. In reality, motivation is not a wave. It is a muscle. It must be built, trained, and called upon even when it feels weak, especially when it feels weak. Those who rely only on sudden surges of motivation are constantly waiting for the perfect conditions. But those who build something more profound and an internal fire do not wait. They move. They act. They train themselves to become the source of their drive. Realizing that no one is coming to light the fire for you is a powerful shift in mindset. If you want to grow, achieve, and become the version of yourself that you know is possible, then you must learn how to ignite that fire on your own, and that begins with honesty. Too often, people confuse temporary excitement with lasting motivation. Watching a powerful video, reading a quote, or hearing someone tell a success story may spark something inside for a moment, but that spark fades. Real internal drive does not come from inspiration. It comes from clarity. Clarity about what you want, why you want it, and who you must become to achieve it. Without that clarity, your energy has no direction. You may be busy, but you won't move forward. You may take action, but not the right action. The fire within is not fueled by hype. It is driven by purpose. To develop this purpose, you must look at your life honestly. Where are you right now? What are the patterns, habits, and excuses that have kept you stuck? What are you tolerating that you know is not acceptable anymore? These are uncomfortable questions, but they are necessary. The truth is that transformation does not begin with ambition. It starts with frustration, the kind of frustration that says, I can't live like this anymore. It is the breaking point that becomes the turning point. When people talk about hitting rock bottom, they often describe it as a tragedy. But it is also a gift. Because rock bottom removes all illusions, it shows you the truth without filters and distractions. You can change it once you've seen the truth, looked at where you are, and accepted responsibility. That's when the fire begins to spark. But a spark is not a flame. A spark is potential. It still needs fuel. Fuel comes from discipline, and discipline comes from commitment. Not the kind of commitment you make when everything feels good, but the kind you renew every day, especially when it doesn't. You must become the kind of person who shows up even when there's no applause, even when it's inconvenient, even when every part of you is tempted to take the easier path. That daily decision to show up, no matter how small the action may seem, builds the flame. You may not see results immediately. You may feel like you're walking in the dark. But you fuel the fire whenever you align with your future, even in the smallest way. Soon what began as a flicker became steady, something warm, something powerful enough to carry you through the coldest seasons of your life. You must also understand that this internal fire is not about motivation alone. It is about identity. Who do you believe you are? This question is more important than any goal you set because your behavior will always follow your identity. You will find excuses if you see yourself as someone who quits easily. If you see yourself as someone who's never been disciplined, you'll avoid the habits that could change your life. But when you start to identify as someone who is committed, focused, and unstoppable, your actions will begin to match that identity, even if slowly, even if imperfectly. So ask yourself this: who would you be if you stopped telling yourself the story of your past? Who would you become if you stopped identifying with your mistakes and instead began identifying with your potential? That identity shift is the moment. The fire becomes permanent. It's the moment you stop needing motivation and start becoming it. The journey to building an unbreakable drive begins with this awareness. You are the source. Waiting for someone else to push you is no longer an option. Your life, your real life, begins when you take full ownership of your energy, your direction, and your power. Now is not the time to wait for the right moment. Now is the time to create it. Once you understand that you are the source of your fire, the next challenge is learning how to keep that fire alive, especially when life begins to test your strength. Because it will, no matter how committed you are, you will face moments when your energy drops, your focus slips, and your old habits try to drag you back to where you started. That's when many people fall. Not because they're incapable, but because they didn't prepare for those moments of weakness. It is easy to stay committed when everything is going well, but that's not where greatness is built. Greatness is built in the moments when it would be easier to quit, and you don't. It's built on the days when your mind tells you it's okay to skip your goals just this once, and you answer back with action. It's built when you feel doubt creeping in, but you keep moving anyway, not because you're certain, but because you've chosen to trust the process more than your emotions. One of the most important lessons you must learn on this journey is this: your feelings are not facts. They are not always reliable. They are often rooted in old fears, outdated beliefs, or temporary discomforts. If you allow your feelings to control your behavior, your life will become unstable. You'll move forward when you're inspired and stall when you're uncertain. But you create stability if you learn to act from commitment instead of comfort. You become grounded, focused, powerful. And that kind of power builds momentum. Momentum is what turns small decisions into massive results. It's what transforms a hesitant start into an unstoppable engine. But momentum doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's built slowly, quietly, through repetition, through consistency, through doing the work when no one sees and no one congratulates you. It's in the early morning wake-ups, the late-night writing sessions, the workouts done alone, the books read silently. Those moments, seemingly insignificant on their own, come together to form something extraordinary. Discipline. Discipline is the real fuel of the fire within. Discipline is not punishment. It's freedom. Because the more disciplined you become, the less you are controlled by impulse, emotion, or distraction. Discipline gives you access to the best version of yourself, not occasionally, but daily. It bridges who you are now and who you want to become. And unlike motivation, which comes and goes, you can rely on discipline. It shows up when you do. It rewards those who are consistent, not just those who are talented. But here's what most people miss. Discipline is not about perfection. You will slip. You will miss days, you will fall short of your standards at times. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. What separates those who succeed from those who don't is not whether they make mistakes, it's how quickly they recover from them. Successful people don't punish themselves for slipping. They correct, learn, and return to the path. They build a mindset that says, I may fall, but I won't stay down. This ability to reset, refocus, and restart without shame is a core part of keeping your internal fire alive. Because shame dims the fire, it tells you that you've failed, isn't capable, and that your efforts were pointless. But that's a lie. One mistake doesn't define your journey. One off day doesn't erase your progress. Your fire will flicker, but it won't go out if you don't abandon it. The people who build unbreakable drives are not the ones who never feel discouraged. They are the ones who have taught themselves how to keep going anyway. They have built mental systems, emotional resilience, and daily rituals that allow them to continue even when their feelings say otherwise. They've trained their minds to default to action, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You can train your mind in the same way. Start by setting small, clear standards for yourself each day. Not vague goals like be productive or get more motivated, but specific actions like read for 15 minutes, exercise for 20 minutes, or write down 3 goals. Could you keep it simple? Repeat it daily. Over time, those small wins stack up and shape how you see yourself. They become the proof you need that your fire is real, that it's growing, and that it's strong enough to fuel a lifetime of growth. And when that voice in your head returns, the one that whispers you're not good enough, that it's too hard, that no one's watching, respond with action. No arguments. Action. Let your behavior become the proof. Let your discipline be the answer, because there is no louder statement of self-worth than the quiet act of showing up for yourself daily. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fearless. But you must be committed to your growth, values, and the fire that burns inside you. That fire may have started as a flicker, but with time, action, and discipline, it becomes a force that no excuse, doubt, or setback can extinguish. This is the fire within. This is where your journey begins. Chapter 2. Own your life. Taking full responsibility for your actions, choices, and future. There is a turning point in every life where the excuses no longer hold. Blaming others becomes hollow, and the story we've been telling ourselves, that life just happened to us, finally begins to unravel. In that moment, we're faced with a choice: continue living by default or begin living by design. And living by design always starts with ownership. To own your life means more than accepting responsibility when things go wrong. It means recognizing that every aspect of your life, your habits, mindset, progress, and failures, reflects your choices, not your circumstances. This is not always easy to hear. We've been conditioned to look outward when things don't go as planned. We blame our upbringing, environment, lack of opportunity, bosses, relationships, and government. And sometimes these factors truly are unfair. Life can be deeply unjust. But the path to empowerment does not lie in what's fair. It lies in what's yours. When you take ownership, you take your power back. You surrender control if you believe your circumstances are someone else's fault. But fundamental transformation begins when you decide, no matter what has happened, that you will be the one to change it. Think about this. Every day you make thousands of choices, whether conscious or not. What time do you wake up? What you eat? What you say yes to? What do you avoid? Whether you scroll or study? Whether you speak up or stay silent? These choices add up over time and create the shape of your life. If you're unhappy with your current situation, it's not enough to wish it were different. You have to trace your way back to the decisions that built it. This requires honesty and sometimes humility, but it also unlocks freedom. Because if your choices create your present, then new decisions can make your future. This is the philosophy of extreme ownership. The idea that your life is yours entirely, not partially, not occasionally, not only when it's convenient, always. People often resist this idea because it feels harsh. They'll say, "But I didn't choose to grow up in a toxic home," or "I didn't choose to get sick," or "I didn't choose to be laid off." And they're right. There are many things we don't choose, but we always choose how we respond. And how we respond, with anger, with action, with apathy, or with growth, that response determines the trajectory of our lives. To own your life means becoming a student of your reactions. When something goes wrong, ask yourself, what part of this was within my control? How did I contribute to this? What could I do differently next time? This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Blame keeps you stuck while awareness moves you forward. Owning your life also means confronting your habits. Many people complain about their lack of results without examining their daily actions, which leads them nowhere. They want success, but they don't want to give up comfort. They want discipline, but only when it's convenient. They want growth, but without discomfort. But the truth is, results don't come from what you want. They come from what you do. And until your actions are aligned with your ambitions, your life will stay the same. In its purest form, responsibility is not a burden, it's a superpower. When you accept full responsibility for where you are, you also receive full power to change where you go. No more waiting. No more hoping for a break. No more wondering why others seem to have it easier. You become the architect of your future. You make the decisions, you build the structure, you lay the bricks. And you do it without needing applause. There's something liberating about that. When you no longer expect others to rescue you, you stop waiting. When you stop waiting, you start moving. And that movement, slow, quiet, invisible to others at first, becomes momentum. This is not to say the road will be easy. Owning your life means you don't get to blame laziness on genetics or your failures on luck. It means showing up even when you're tired. It means apologizing when you're wrong. It means letting go of your victim narrative even when it's been your identity for years. That kind of growth takes courage, but it also builds confidence. Because every time you take responsibility, you reinforce your agency. You begin to believe, not in theory but through action, that you can change. You must understand that this mindset is rare. Most people avoid it because living in the illusion of helplessness is easier. It removes pressure, justifies inaction, and makes mediocrity feel safe. But it also keeps them small. And if you're reading this, you've already decided that small is no longer an option. Taking ownership is not a one-time decision. It's a practice. Every day you will face moments of being tempted to blame, deflect, and shrink back into old stories. But you don't have to listen. You can interrupt the pattern. You can remind yourself, this is my life, and I am responsible for it. The beauty of ownership is that it applies to every area of life: your health, your finances, your relationships, your goals, your mental and emotional states. You may not control everything that happens, but you always control what you do next. And your next decision is what will either move you closer to your potential or further from it. That's the power of owning your life. If there is one mindset that will keep you stuck no matter how much knowledge you gain or how many goals you set, it is the victim mindset. The silent voice says, life is happening to me, instead of, life is happening through me. And the most dangerous part is that this voice doesn't always sound loud or obvious. Sometimes it comes disguised as self-pity, sometimes asalame, sometimes it is due to procrastination or even perfectionism. But underneath it is the same belief: I am not in control. The moment you begin to dismantle that belief, everything changes. Victimhood can feel safe, especially if you've been carrying it for years. It can even become part of your identity. When people grow up being told they're unlucky, incapable, or disadvantaged, it's easy to internalize those messages as truth. But no matter how long you've believed them, they're stories, not facts. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are determined by what you do next. To truly own your life, you must replace the victim mindset with one built on accountability. Accountability doesn't mean being hard on yourself or living in guilt. It means living in truth. It means recognizing the gap between where you are and where you want to be, and refusing to blame anything outside of yourself for that gap. That doesn't mean others didn't make things more complicated. Maybe they did. But blame gives them power. Accountability gives it back to you. This shift in thinking is one of the most potent forms of mental freedom. You no longer waste time waiting for apologies, validation, or the perfect circumstances. You stop rehearsing old conversations in your head. You stop keeping score. Instead, you use that mental energy to move forward, do the work, and build. Slowly, you begin to see yourself not as someone who's been hurt or held back, but as someone who has overcome. One of the most effective ways to practice this shift daily is through systems of self-accountability. These are not complicated strategies. They're simple tools that remind you that you are responsible for your actions and growth. Here are a few practices that will anchor that mindset into your daily life. 1. Daily check-ins. At the end of each day, take 5 minutes to ask yourself, what did I do today that moved me closer to my goals? What choices did I make that pulled me away from them? Be honest, not judgmental. The goal is clarity, not shame. 2. Ownership. Journal. Write down one area where you feel stuck every week. Then, ask, how have I contributed to this situation? Don't look for external causes. Look for internal patterns. It could be a habit you've avoided changing, a fear you haven't confronted, a boundary you keep breaking. Name it, claim it, change it. 3. Personal promises. Set small, achievable goals each morning and treat them like promises to yourself. These could be as simple as waking up at a set time, reading 10 pages, or staying offline during work hours. Keeping these promises builds self-trust, which is the foundation of personal responsibility. 4. Response practice. You will face triggers throughout your day. A rude comment, a moment of temptation, a sudden failure. These moments are golden opportunities. Pause and ask yourself, how would the person I'm becoming respond to this? Then act accordingly. That decision builds identity, which builds destiny. Remember, your external world reflects your internal standards. If your environment is chaotic, your mind likely is too. If your relationships are unstable, look at your communication patterns. If your results are inconsistent, examine your discipline. These patterns are not coincidences. They are reflections. And once you begin seeing them clearly, you can change them intentionally. It's also important to understand that ownership doesn't mean you do everything alone. Taking responsibility for your life does not exclude asking for help. The most responsible people are often the first to seek guidance, mentorship, or feedback. Why? Because they know that growth isn't about ego, it's about results. And if someone else can help them get there faster, stronger, or more effectively, they won't let pride get in the way. So, if you've been carrying the belief that doing it on your own is what proves your strength, let it go. Strength isn't proven by isolation, it's proven by action. And asking for help when done from a place of accountability is not a weakness, it's wisdom. Finally, know this. Owning your life is not about control, it's about leadership. It means leading yourself through the chaos, the setbacks, the boredom, and the uncertainty. It means being your standard, showing up whether or not you feel like it, and holding yourself to a higher level, even when no one else is watching. Some people spend their entire lives hoping someone will save them. Others realize they've been the hero all along. When you choose ownership, you don't wait for miracles. You become one. So, if you're serious about building an unbreakable drive, start here, right now. By saying it out loud, I own my life, my decisions, my future, no one else. Say it until you believe it, then act like it's true. Every. Chapter 3. Discipline over mood. Training your actions to follow commitment, not emotion. There is a dangerous myth woven into modern culture. The idea that you must feel good to do good, that success only happens when you're inspired, and that progress depends on motivation. But this belief is not only misleading, it's one of the main reasons many stay stuck. The truth is, your mood is a terrible driver. It is unpredictable, unstable, and often influenced by things outside your control. A poor night's sleep, a difficult conversation, a moment of doubt, or even the weather. If your progress depends on your feelings, you will always be at the mercy of your emotions. One bad day can undo weeks of momentum. One low mood can convince you you're incapable, not ready, or not motivated enough. And that single moment of surrender can become a habit. This is why discipline is not just important, it is essential. Discipline is the muscle that allows you to act regardless of how you feel. It is the skill that says, I don't want to, but I will. Over time, it is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. The truth is that everyone wants change, everyone wants results. However, only the disciplined are willing to act when uncomfortable, inconvenient, or uninspiring. That is the difference between motivation and discipline. Motivation is emotional, while discipline is strategic. Motivation feels good, but it fades. Discipline isn't always fun, but it works. When you build your life around discipline, you operate from a deeper place. You stop negotiating with yourself every morning about whether to get up and do the work. You stop waiting for motivation to show up before making progress. You stop letting how you feel decide whether or not you show up. Instead, you let your standards guide your behavior. And this shift creates freedom. Yes, freedom. That might sound contradictory initially. Discipline is often associated with restriction, pressure, or force. But in reality, discipline creates the freedom you crave to trust yourself, the freedom to live a life aligned with your values, the freedom to make progress even when circumstances aren't perfect, and the freedom to know that no matter what, you will still show up. This kind of self-trust is powerful. It doesn't need external validation, accountability partners, or perfect conditions. It's quiet, solid, rooted, and available to anyone willing to train it. Of course, building discipline is not something that happens overnight. It begins with small decisions, seemingly insignificant ones. Do you get up with your alarm or hit snooze? Do you go for a walk or scroll on your phone? Do you stick to your writing session or find an excuse to push it to tomorrow? In these moments, your brain is being trained. Every choice is a vote, not just for what you'll do, but for who you become. Most people miss this. Discipline isn't just about action, it's about identity. You reinforce the belief that you are consistent, focused, and committed whenever you act with discipline. Whenever you let your mood dictate your actions, you strengthen the assumption that you are inconsistent, easily distracted, and unreliable. It's not about punishment. It's about programming. The good news is that your brain is always listening and adapting, which means you can rewire it starting today. One of the biggest reasons people struggle with discipline is emotional resistance. We tend to associate discipline with force, rigidity, or even punishment. From a young age, many of us have been taught that discipline means doing things we hate in ways we don't enjoy for reasons that don't feel meaningful. Over time, this creates internal resistance. We begin to see discipline as the opposite of freedom rather than the path to it. But discipline doesn't have to feel like a burden. When built correctly, it becomes a tool of self-respect. It honors your goals even when it's easier not to. It's the daily commitment to align with your values, not occasionally but consistently. This is where personal power comes from. Not from intensity, but from reliability. To make this shift, you must stop treating discipline as a punishment and start treating it as a form of self-leadership. Discipline is what you use when motivation runs dry. It's what allows you to stay the course when emotions fluctuate. And it's how you build a life that doesn't just look good for 1 week but lasts through the seasons. Still, developing discipline can feel overwhelming. So instead of overhauling your entire life immediately, begin with small, manageable steps. Start by identifying one habit that matters to you, something meaningful yet realistic. Maybe it's waking up 30 minutes earlier, writing for 10 minutes a day, or exercising 3 times a week. Whatever it is, commit to it entirely, but permit yourself to start small. Most people fail not because they set their goals too low, but because they start too fast. They expect perfection. They go all in for 3 days and then burn out by the 4th. Discipline isn't about how fast you go. It's about how long you can keep going. And longevity comes from sustainability. Set clear rules for yourself. Write them down. Not rigid rules meant to control you, but commitments designed to support your highest self. For example, I write for 20 minutes every morning, no matter what. I don't check social media until after I've completed my top 3 priorities. I move my body daily, even just for a short walk. These rules remove decision fatigue. They eliminate the daily back and forth of should I do this or maybe I'll skip today. When your rules are clear, your energy is saved for execution, not negotiation. Another key to building discipline is learning how to navigate emotional pushback. Some days your mind will argue. It will offer reasons why today is not the day. It will present convincing cases for why this moment is an exception. It will tell you, you're tired, it's not urgent, or you deserve a break. And those things may be true, but the moment you let emotion override commitment, you weaken your foundation. This doesn't mean you ignore your needs. Discipline is not about burnout. It's about learning the difference between legitimate rest and emotional avoidance. If you're exhausted, rest strategically, not impulsively. Take breaks to refuel, not to escape. Stay in dialogue with yourself. Ask, am I avoiding this because I need recovery or because I'm uncomfortable with effort? The answer will tell you everything. The deeper your self-awareness, the stronger your discipline. It's also crucial to anticipate resistance. Don't be surprised when your motivation fades. Expect it. Don't be shocked when life gets in the way. Plan for it. If you know your discipline will be tested, you can create systems that protect it. For example, prepare your environment ahead of time. If you want to write in the morning, leave your journal or laptop in plain sight the night before. Reduce friction. If you're going to work out, lay out your clothes and water bottle beforehand. Build triggers. Tie your habit to something you already do, like meditating after brushing your teeth or reviewing your goals after your first cup of tea. These systems create automatic momentum. They reduce the effort required to get started, which is often the most challenging part. Once you're in motion, your brain begins to follow the path of least resistance. And if you've prepared well, that path leads toward discipline. Finally, know this. Consistency is more important than intensity. You do not need to go all out every single day or be perfect. What matters is that you keep showing up. The compounding effect of consistent, disciplined effort will consistently outperform occasional bursts of enthusiasm. The most successful people in the world do not feel the most inspired. They are the ones who keep going when inspiration fades. They trust their system, rely on their habits, and most importantly, don't wait for the mood to determine their movement because they've learned the truth. The mood is fleeting, but discipline builds legacies. Let that truth shape how you live. Chapter 4. Rewiring Your Mindset. Transforming your thinking to unlock your true potential. Every action you take begins with a thought. Before every decision, there is a belief. Before every habit, there is a pattern. And before every breakthrough, there is a mindset shift. Your mindset is not just how you think. It's the lens through which you see everything. It filters your experiences, shapes your expectations, and silently influences what you believe is possible for your life. Most people never question this lens. They assume their thoughts are just who they are, never realizing that these thoughts were shaped by years of conditioning, repetition, and often, limitation. But here's the truth. Your mindset is not fixed. It's not a permanent trait or a genetic inheritance. It's a pattern, and patterns can be changed. They can be interrupted, replaced, and completely rebuilt. That process is called mental rewiring, and it is one of the most potent forms of personal transformation you will ever experience. To rewire your mindset, you must first understand your current programming. Begin by observing your inner dialogue. How do you speak to yourself when no one is listening? What do you say when you make a mistake, face a challenge, or try something new? If your default thoughts lean toward fear, doubt, criticism, or avoidance, they aren't just opinions, they shape your reality. Imagine someone who has tried and failed multiple times. Over the years, they began to believe that failure is their identity. That belief, though never spoken aloud, influences every choice they make. They avoid risk, play small, and settle for less. Not because they lack ability, but because their mindset has convinced them they don't have what it takes. This is how powerful the mind is. It doesn't need facts, to build your reality. It only requires repetition. If you think the same limiting thought enough times, your brain will begin to accept it as truth. And once it believes, it will filter out everything that contradicts that belief, even success, even possibility. The good news is this: the brain can unlearn just as powerfully as it can learn. You can replace old limiting thoughts with new empowering ones through deliberate effort, awareness, and repetition. This is not motivational fluff. It is backed by neuroscience. The brain is not static, it's adaptable. Scientists call neuroplasticity your natural ability to reshape your thoughts, change your focus, and train your brain to respond differently. It begins with awareness. You cannot change what you do not observe. Start by noticing your thought patterns, especially in moments of discomfort or challenge. When something goes wrong, what is your first internal reaction? Do you assume you've failed? Do you tell yourself that you'll never change? Or do you see the moment as an opportunity to grow? This moment of observation is decisive. It is the first crack in the armor of old beliefs, and it's your invitation to step out of autopilot and into intentional living. But awareness alone is not enough. You must pair it with conscious correction. When you think, "I'm not good enough," interrupt the thought, not with blind positivity, but with truth. Say, "This is a thought, not a fact. I am learning. I am growing. I have overcome before, and I will again." Say it until it starts to feel less foreign, until it becomes the new normal. The key is consistency. Just as the old beliefs were programmed through repetition, the new beliefs must also be. This is why mindset work must become a daily practice, not a one-time realization. You don't go to the gym once and expect to stay fit. Likewise, you don't replace a decade of mental patterns with one good day of journaling. You must return to the work again and again until the work becomes part of you. One of the most effective tools for mindset rewiring is visualization. This is not just about seeing your goals. It's about rehearsing success in your mind so your brain begins normalizing it. When you visualize the version of yourself who follows through, stays focused, and handles pressure confidently, you create new neural pathways. You are training your mind to expect success, not fear it. And when you pair that visualization with action, even small action, your brain strengthens. It starts to believe in the new identity you are creating. You are no longer just wishing for change. You are proving that you are capable of it. Your mindset is not just about how you think. It's also about how you see yourself. And that, perhaps more than anything else, is what determines the trajectory of your life. You will never rise above the identity you hold in your mind. If you believe you're inconsistent, you will act inconsistently. If you think you're lazy, you will find ways to avoid effort. If you believe success is for other people, your subconscious will sabotage any chance of achieving it yourself. This is why actual mindset rewiring must involve identity transformation. It's about changing what you do and who you believe you are. When your identity changes, your behavior begins to follow automatically. Start by asking yourself a powerful question. Who am I becoming? Don't answer with what you hope or wish. Answer with clarity and conviction. The person you're becoming must be clearly defined. Are you becoming disciplined, focused, and driven? Are you following through on commitments, even when no one is watching? Are you leading yourself with strength no matter how difficult the circumstances? The clearer your identity, the easier it is to make decisions that align with it. When faced with distraction, you don't need motivation. You remind yourself, this is not who I am anymore. When tempted to break a promise to yourself, you can say, I don't do that. That's not me. These simple declarations reinforce the truth. You are not your past. You are not your old habits. You are not your worst day. You are what you repeatedly decide to become. And those decisions happen one thought at a time. You must also confront the limiting beliefs holding you back from shifting your identity. These beliefs are rarely loud or obvious. Often they live quietly in the background of your thinking, whispering familiar lies. You're not smart enough. You've failed too many times. It's too late for you. You don't have the discipline, you're not like them. These beliefs must be pulled out from the roots, because as long as they remain, they will distort your actions. They will keep you playing small even when you say you want more. Removing these beliefs is not about pretending they were never there. It's about recognizing them, challenging them, and choosing something better. Start by writing down the thoughts you believe are limiting you. Be honest. Don't filter or sugarcoat. Just write them. Then, and this is critical, question them. Where did these beliefs come from? Were they inherited from a parent, a teacher, or a toxic relationship? Are they based on evidence or fear? Have they helped you, or have they only kept you safe and small? Once you see the belief for what it is, a story, not a fact, you can replace it. Choose a belief that empowers you. Something like, I am capable of consistent growth, or I can build discipline one step at a time. Or my past does not limit my future. Repeat these beliefs daily, not once, not when it feels convenient. Daily. Because that is how the brain rewires, through repetition, not inspiration. The more you repeat the truth, the more it begins to overwrite the lie. And slowly you start to act like the person who truly believes it. Another powerful way to rewire your mindset is by controlling your environment. Your brain is constantly being shaped by what surrounds it, the voices you listen to, the content you consume, the people you spend time with. If you are surrounded by negativity, distraction, or laziness, that becomes your standard. But if you surround yourself with people, books, and ideas that reflect the mindset you want to build, your mind begins to rise to that level. You cannot develop a growth mindset in a stagnant environment. Think clearly if you're constantly distracted, or believe in your potential. If you're surrounded by people who have given up on theirs, protect your mental space like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. The person you are becoming is being built with every thought you allow, every belief you repeat, and every identity you reinforce. Rewiring your mindset is not about flipping a switch. It's about building a foundation that can hold your goals, habits, and success without collapsing under pressure. You are not stuck. Your thoughts are not permanent, your beliefs are not facts, and your identity is not fixed. You are a work in progress, and you hold the tools to shape that progress into something extraordinary. So take back your power. Speak the truth to yourself. Choose the identity you want to live by and then prove it, one thought, choice, and action at a time. Chapter 5. Atomic Habits. Massive Change. How small daily choices create unstoppable transformation. Most people believe that change requires something dramatic, a sudden breakthrough, a massive shift, a powerful burst of motivation that catapults them into a new life. This is why they wait for inspiration before acting, or why they feel paralyzed by the idea of completely overhauling their routines. But the truth is far less glamorous and more powerful. Real, lasting change doesn't come from massive actions. It comes from small, consistent behaviors repeated every day. These are atomic habits, tiny, simple decisions that over time shape your identity, transform your performance, and ultimately redefine your future. Think about it. One meal doesn't affect your health, but your eating habits do. One skipped workout won't make you weak, but skipping it every week will. One late night won't ruin your energy, but a poor sleep pattern will erode your discipline. These actions seem small at the moment, almost irrelevant, but over days, weeks, and months, they begin to compound, and the results are either powerful or destructive, depending on the habits you've built. The challenge with atomic habits is that they are easy to ignore. Because they don't offer instant results, they're often dismissed. Nothing dramatic happens when you begin a new habit, like reading for 15 minutes daily or walking instead of scrolling. There is no applause, no celebration, and often, no visible progress. But that doesn't mean the habit isn't working. It's working quietly behind the scenes, shaping your identity and building momentum, one small decision at a time. This concept of compounding behavior is essential to understand. Like compound interest builds wealth when money is consistently invested, compound behavior builds transformation when action is consistently applied. The results may be invisible initially, but they become undeniable one day. And when that shift happens, people from the outside call it a breakthrough. But you'll know better. You'll know it was built brick by brick, moment by moment, through habits so small that most people ignored them. That's your advantage. But to harness that advantage, you must begin with clarity. No habit will stick unless it's connected to something meaningful. Your habits must be linked to a clear identity and a compelling goal. If your habits are disconnected from your values, they will feel like chores. But when they are aligned with who you want to become, they transform into tools for becoming that person. Your goal is to become a focused, self-driven person. That identity must inform your daily habits. What does a focused person do in the first hour of the day? How do they structure their time? What distractions do they avoid? How do they recover from setbacks? By aligning your habits with this identity, every small action becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. It's not about perfection. It's about casting hundreds of votes until your mind believes the identity, because your behavior keeps proving it. It's also essential to design your habits with simplicity in mind. Most people abandon their goals not because they're lazy, but because they complicate the process. They try to change everything at once or set unrealistic standards that collapse under real-life pressure. But the most successful people know that momentum is built through simplicity. Start small. If your goal is to journal daily, don't try to write a novel. Commit to 3 sentences. If your goal is to exercise, don't start with 90-minute workouts. Begin with 15 minutes. The smaller and more specific your habit, the less resistance you'll face, and the more likely you will stick with it. Consistency always beats intensity. A small habit done every day is more powerful than a big habit done once a week. When you're consistent, your actions move beyond effort, becoming automatic. And once something becomes automatic, it no longer drains willpower. It becomes a part of your system, not a struggle. At the core of every habit is a loop, a neurological cycle of 3 key elements: the cue, the routine, and the reward. This is known as the habit loop. The cue is the trigger, the moment that signals your brain to begin a specific behavior. It could be a time of day, a place, an emotional state, or even the presence of a particular person. The routine is the actual behavior, the habit itself. The reward is the payoff, the feeling or result that reinforces the action and makes you more likely to repeat it next time. Let's say every afternoon you feel tired and distracted. That's your cue. Your routine might be to grab your phone and scroll through social media. The reward is temporary stimulation and escape. Over time, this loop repeats so often that it becomes automatic. And suddenly, without even realizing it, you've built a habit. But the same process can be used to your advantage. If you understand the habit loop, you can redesign it. Want to build a reading habit? Set a cue such as your morning coffee and immediately follow it with reading for 5 minutes. Want to practice mindfulness? Use your nightly teeth brushing as a cue to take 10 slow breaths. By pairing new behaviors with existing routines, you remove decision-making friction and create stick patterns. This is known as habit stacking, and it's one of the most effective tools in behavior change. You don't need to reinvent your entire day. You need to attach new habits to the anchors already there. But habit formation is not just about behavior. It's also about the environment. Your surroundings shape your decisions far more than you realize. If your phone is beside your bed, you'll reach for it first thing in the morning. If junk food is within easy reach, you'll eat it when tired. If your workspace is cluttered and chaotic, your thoughts will reflect the same disorganization. This is why environment design is one of the most underrated forms of self-discipline. Instead of relying on willpower to resist bad habits, use your environment to make them harder. And instead of struggling to remember new habits, use your space to make them obvious. For example, place your workout clothes next to your bed at night. Keep a water bottle on your desk to remind yourself to stay hydrated. Leave your journal on your pillow so you don't forget to reflect before sleep. These minor tweaks signal your brain, this is what we do here. Over time, those cues begin to drive behavior automatically, and this is the ultimate goal, to create Systems that lead to success even when your motivation is low. Because here's the truth. Motivation is unreliable. You won't always feel like showing up. Life will get busy, stress will hit, your energy will fluctuate. But if you've built strong systems, if your habits are well designed and deeply integrated, you won't need inspiration. Your life will keep moving because your structure will carry you when your feelings can't. That's the difference between people who try to change and people who succeed. People who try to change rely on bursts of energy. They set big goals in moments of excitement, but haven't built the structure to sustain them. So when life challenges them, they fall back into old patterns. But people who succeed build their goals into the rhythm of their day. They make the process so manageable that it's harder not to follow through. They don't just set intentions, they create conditions. And those conditions lead to freedom. Because when your habits are in alignment with your values, life becomes simpler. You no longer waste energy deciding what to do. You no longer feel torn between who you are and who you want to be. Your behavior reflects your vision. Your days reflect your purpose. And here's the most beautiful part. As your habits compound, so does your confidence. Each time you follow through, you reinforce your identity. You begin to see yourself as capable, disciplined, and reliable. You trust yourself again. And that self-trust becomes the foundation for everything else. Your career, relationships, and goals. It all starts with small, intentional choices made consistently over time. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to wait until you're ready. You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You need to begin with one habit, one change, one shift. Then, keep going. Let the small become powerful. Let the quiet become unstoppable. Because that's how massive change is built. Not all at once, but one atomic habit at a time. Chapter 6. Emotional Mastery. How to lead your life without being led by your emotions. You can have the perfect strategy, clear goals, and strong habits, but none will last if your emotions control you. Emotional mastery is one of the most overlooked skills in personal growth. It doesn't get the spotlight like discipline or productivity, but it is quietly responsible for almost everything you do. Every choice, reaction, moment of hesitation, or courage involves emotion. Whether you know it or not, your emotional state drives your behavior. When your emotions rule you, they sabotage your decisions. You act from impulse instead of intention. You procrastinate not because of a lack of skill, but because fear or overwhelm hijacks your clarity. You lash out, shut down, or give up. Not because you're weak, but because your emotions were never trained to serve you. But everything changes when you rule your emotions, when you understand them, manage them, and respond with wisdom instead of reactivity. Emotional mastery doesn't mean you become cold or unfeeling, suppress your emotions, or pretend they don't exist. It means you lead yourself, even when your feelings try to lead you elsewhere. It means developing the awareness to recognize your feelings and the discipline to choose your response rather than reacting on autopilot. Let's start with awareness. Most people are emotionally reactive because they've never taken the time to understand their emotions. They feel anger and assume it's the whole truth. They feel sadness and think they're broken. They feel anxiety and assume something must be wrong. But emotions, when left unexamined, become distorted. What you think is real, but it is not always accurate. For example, anger often hides fear. Procrastination usually masks perfectionism or a fear of failure. Resentment frequently signals a boundary being crossed or not enforced. If you don't understand the trustworthy source of your emotion, you will keep reacting to the surface level, never resolving the root cause. This is why emotional mastery begins with naming the feeling. The simple act of saying, "I feel anxious," or "I feel disappointed," already reduces the emotion's grip on you. It creates space between you and the emotion. You become the observer, not the victim. And in that space, choice becomes possible. Once you've named the feeling, the next step is to ask a powerful question. What is this emotion trying to teach me? Emotions are not enemies. They are messengers. They alert you to your values, fears, and unmet needs. But they speak in code, and if you don't learn how to listen, you'll either ignore the message or act on it unthinkingly. Neither of those options leads to mastery. Anger might be telling you that something important to you feels threatened. Jealousy might be pointing toward a desire you've suppressed. Anxiety might be asking you to slow down and create structure. Every emotion has a message. The stronger the feeling, the more urgent the message. But once you hear it, your job is not to become the emotion. Your job is to respond with intelligence. Most people get this wrong. They think emotional control means not feeling. In reality, emotional mastery means feeling full without losing control. It means honoring your emotions but not obeying every impulse. It means pausing between feeling and action, checking in with your values before moving. And in that pause is your power. Because it's in that pause that relationships are either repaired or damaged. Goals are either pursued or abandoned. Momentum is either kept or lost. That tiny space between stimulus and response is where your future is decided, moment by moment. One of the most excellent tools you can build into your life is emotional regulation. The ability to calm yourself when you're triggered, to refocus when you're distracted, and to remain grounded when everything feels unstable. Without it, your emotions become the loudest voice in the room. With it, you become the one who chooses the direction, regardless of the noise. So, how do you develop this strength? The first step is to build emotional rituals into your life. Small, consistent practices that regulate your nervous system and reconnect you with clarity. These are not complicated or dramatic. They're simple, powerful, and repeatable. Breathing is one of the fastest ways to reset your emotional state. When stress spikes, your breath shortens, your heart races. Your body thinks it's in danger, even if the threat is a challenging conversation or an overwhelming to-do list. Deep, slow breathing signals to your brain, we are safe. In just 60 seconds, you can shift from chaos to calm. Movement is another. Emotions live in the body. Anger, fear, and tension all create physical pressure. When you move, you release that tension. A short walk, a stretch, or a few minutes of focused movement can interrupt the emotional loop and restore clarity. Journaling allows you to process feelings before they erupt. Instead of letting anger explode in a conversation, could you write it down? See it on paper. Understand what's behind it. Often, just writing what you feel reduces its intensity and increases your insight. Mindful reflection creates space. It's not about fixing your emotions in the moment. It's about learning from them over time. Every emotional outburst has a pattern. Every recurring fear has a history. When you reflect regularly, you begin to see these patterns. And what you can see, you can change. This is important. Emotional mastery is not about never feeling strong emotions. It's about feeling them fully without being ruled by them. You are allowed to feel overwhelmed, to cry, to be angry, to feel fear, and to feel grief. Emotions are not weaknesses. They are human. What separates the strong from the unstable is what you do next. Do you lash out when angry or step away and breathe? Do you shut down when anxious or take a small step forward? Do you let fear dictate your future? Or do you move anyway, with shaking hands and clear eyes? That is what emotional strength looks like. Not perfection, not stillness, but response over reaction. Emotional mastery also means understanding that your emotional state is temporary. No emotion lasts forever, but it feels endless when you're inside it. Drowning in sadness or gripped by fear, it feels endless. That's why emotional mastery includes one of the most powerful affirmations you can speak to yourself in those moments. This is a moment, not a life. By simply reminding yourself that this is temporary, you allow yourself to stay present rather than panic, spiral, or make permanent decisions based on temporary feelings. And now, very few people understand that emotional sensitivity is not a flaw. It's a gift. If you feel things deeply, are emotionally intuitive, and notice subtle shifts in energy and tone, you are not weak, you are highly tuned. And when that sensitivity is paired with self-awareness, you gain an extraordinary advantage. empathy, intuition, and emotional intelligence. The problem is not that you feel too much. The problem is when you don't know what to do with your feelings. When you master that, learn to feel deeply, and respond wisely, your emotions stop being obstacles. They become tools that guide your leadership, communication, creativity, and resilience. You no longer fear your feelings. You use them. You channel anger into action. You turn fear into focus. You shape grief into growth. You transform doubt into discovery. This is what it means to lead your life emotionally, to no longer be a slave to every mood or trigger, but to stand firm in who you are, even as your emotions rise and fall. And perhaps most importantly, emotional mastery allows you to stay consistent. Anyone can be productive on a good day. However, those who lead their emotions are the ones who remain disciplined when life gets heavy. They do the work even when their heart feels bruised. They make the call even when they're afraid. They speak the truth even when it shakes their voice. Because they've learned, I am not what I feel. I am what I choose to do with what I feel. That is a real strength. That is power, and that is yours, and if you're willing to claim it. Chapter 7. Resilience Through Setbacks. How can you rise stronger, not bitter, when life pushes you down? You will face setbacks no matter how focused you become, how disciplined your habits become, or how powerful your mindset is. That is not a possibility. It is a guarantee. You will fail. You will be misunderstood. You will lose things you thought were permanent. People will doubt you. Plans will collapse. Some days even you will question your path. And it is in those moments, not the easy ones, that your real strength is revealed. Most people believe resilience is about bouncing back, like a rubber band snapping into shape after being stretched. But real resilience is deeper than recovery. It's about rebuilding, even when the damage feels permanent. It's about growing, even when you're tired. It's about continuing forward, not because things are easy, but because you've decided I don't quit when it's hard. I grow through it. Every setback brings a choice. You can shrink or stretch. You can retreat or rise. You can use the pain as an excuse or let it forge something more substantial inside you. Most people get stuck here. They believe that failure is a sign they aren't meant for success, that a closed door means the dream wasn't absolute, and that hardship proves they're on the wrong path. But the truth is this. If you're facing resistance, you're probably exactly where you need to be. Because growth is never easy, fundamental transformation comes with discomfort, doubt, and difficulty. And setbacks are often tests, not to break you, but to build you. Think about nature. The strongest trees are not the ones protected from wind and weather. They've been beaten by storms, stretched by wind, frozen in winter, and scorched by the sun. Yet they kept growing somehow. Their roots dug deeper. Their bark grew thicker. Their structure became unshakable. Not despite the storm, but because of it. You are no different. Every time life pushes you down, you are being asked a silent question. Will you stand back up? And each time you do, your character is sharpened. Your spirit is reinforced. You start to understand something powerful. You've survived things you once thought would break you. That realization builds confidence, not the shallow kind that comes from applause or wins, but the unshakable kind that comes from struggle. You begin to trust yourself not because you're perfect, but because you didn't stop when it got ugly. Still, talking about resilience in hindsight is easy, when the pain is behind you. But what about when you're in it? When the setback is fresh, the loss is recent, and the confidence is shattered? What then? Then you breathe. You don't force yourself to be positive. You don't pretend you're unaffected. You feel the weight. You let the emotion rise. But you don't stay there. You don't unpack your life inside the setback, because pain is a visitor, not a permanent resident. And your job is not to deny its presence, but to outlast it. The strongest people are not those who avoid pain. They are the ones who learn to carry it. And that strength is not something you're born with. It is a skill, a muscle, built slowly through experience, reflection, and repetition. If you want to build lasting resilience, you need tools. Simple, repeatable practices help you stay anchored when the storm hits. These are not philosophies you remember once a year. They are daily habits that reinforce your ability to bend without breaking. 1. Reframing setbacks as data, not definition. When most people fail, they personalize it. They say, "I'm a failure." But failure is not who you are. Feedback, information, and a mirror show you what needs improvement. When a plan doesn't work, ask, "What is this teaching me?" This question changes everything. It shifts you out of victim mode and into growth mode. Stop obsessing over what went wrong and focus on what you can do better next time. This is the mindset of champions. They don't fear failure because they've trained to learn from it. And once failure becomes part of your education, it loses its power to paralyze you. 2. Creating a resilience anchor. A resilience anchor is a phrase, memory, or belief that grounds you during emotional storms. It is something you can return to when you're tempted to quit. It could be a quote that reminds you who you are, a vision of the life you're building, a memory of when you overcame something hard. Could you write it down? Repeat it out loud. Carry it with you. Because in the chaos of emotion, you need something solid that pulls you back to strength when your mind spirals. 3. Talk to yourself. Don't listen to yourself. When you're under pressure, your mind will start speaking. It will say things like, "You're not strong enough for this. This always happens to you. What's the point of trying again?" These thoughts feel real, but they are not true. They are fear speaking in disguise. This is where most people lose the battle. They listen. But resilient people talk back. They say, "I've handled it worse than this. I don't need to feel ready. I need to move. This moment doesn't define me. My response does." Don't let your mind bully you. Train it. Direct it. Lead it. 4. Focus on the next step, not the whole journey. Setbacks can feel overwhelming because they make the future look impossible. However, resilience is not built by solving everything at once. It's built by asking a simple question. What's the next right move I can make? That might mean sending one email, calling, or taking one breath. Progress isn't about giant leaps, but consistent steps, especially when walking feels heavy. And every time you take one small action in the face of adversity, you send a message to your mind: we don't give up, we adapt. 5. Surround yourself with people who reflect strength. Resilience is not a solo mission. Yes, you must lead yourself, but your environment influences your mindset more than you realize. You will absorb their energy if you surround yourself with people who quit easily, complain constantly, or reinforce your doubts. But when you're around people who rise through pressure, people who speak hope, think of solutions, and model strength, you rise with them. If you don't have those people around you, seek them out through books, audiobooks, and communities. Let their voices become part of your mental environment. Your circle becomes your standard. In the end, resilience is not about going through life without scars. It's about being the kind of person who keeps showing up, maybe scarred, but stronger. You become unbreakable not because you avoid pain, but because you decide that pain will never own you. You rise not because it's easy, but because giving up no longer feels like an option. You grow, not despite the setback, but through it. So the next time life knocks you down, don't ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What now?" Then get back up. Slower maybe, wiser definitely, and move forward. Because this is how your story becomes legendary. Chapter 8. The Final Breakthrough. When everything changes, not because the world shifts, but because you do. There is a moment in every journey when something shifts. Not loudly, not publicly, but quietly, deep within. It's not the moment when you win the award, hit the goal, or cross the finish line. It's not when people finally notice your effort. It's not even when you prove them wrong. The real breakthrough happens earlier. It happens when you finally stop waiting to be saved and show up for yourself. when the excuses lose their grip, when the blame runs dry. When you look in the mirror tired of your patterns, say, enough. That's the breakthrough. It's not lightning. It's not luck. It's the slow-burning power of inner evolution, and it arrives the moment you realize the world doesn't owe you progress, you must become it. Most people miss their breakthrough because they think it's a destination, a title, a number, a win. But that thinking only sets them up for disappointment. Even when those external achievements arrive, they feel empty. Unless the inner transformation happens first. You must grow into the version of yourself who can handle the breakthrough, not just dream of it. This is what separates those who change briefly from those who change permanently. One group forces itself to act differently while carrying the same old mindset. The other group rewires who they are, so their new life becomes inevitable, even automatic. So how do you get there? You start by realizing that your old life, your stuckness, fear, and self-sabotage didn't come from failure. It came from forgetting who you are, from letting the world's noise drown out the voice inside you that knows you are meant for more. That voice may have been silenced by doubt, pain, disappointment, or shame, but it's still there. Buried, maybe. Quiet, yes, but never gone. And your breakthrough begins when you stop listening to the voice that says, stay small, and start listening to the one that says, rise. It's not a shout, it's a whisper. And to hear it, you have to get quiet. You have to step away from distractions, away from constant comparison, away from the endless cycle of consuming, scrolling, and reacting, because the clarity you need to break through will not come from more noise. It will come from stillness. In that stillness, you'll remember something simple but life-changing. Your power was never missing. It was just untrained. Once you begin training it, through daily habits, disciplined thought, and resilient action, you become someone who doesn't just hope for transformation. You create it. That's when the fundamental shift happens. Not when the world permits you, not when the timing is perfect, but when you finally decide, I'm done waiting. The final breakthrough doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like stillness, clarity, calm certainty. A quiet sense that something deep within you has shifted, and there's no going back. That's how you know the change is real. You stop chasing results to feel worthy. You stop needing external validation to feel progress. You stop negotiating with your growth. You don't need applause anymore. You don't need perfect conditions. You've seen what you're capable of, and now you do the work. And here's the part that surprises most people. The final breakthrough doesn't come after success. It comes before it. When you finally align your identity with your actions, you stop asking for guarantees and build daily proof through behavior. You wake up and do the hard thing, not because you feel like it, but because it's who you are now. You stay calm during chaos, not because life is easy, but because you've trained your mind to respond, not react. You move forward without permission, because you no longer seek approval to be great. That is the breakthrough, not a moment, not a milestone, but a mode of being. And the more you live there, the more unshakable you become. Not because life stops testing you, but because you've become the person who grows under pressure instead of breaking under it. Now, let's talk about something important: how to protect your breakthrough. Because growth isn't something you earn once, it's something you sustain. Every day you will be tempted to return to comfort, to old patterns, to distractions that feel safe but rob you of your potential. You must stay vigilant, not paranoid, just present, because the version of you that got here must keep evolving. What served you at level 1 will not be enough at level 10. And the habits that helped you survive may be the same habits that prevent you from thriving. So here's how you can protect your breakthrough. 1. Keep reinforcing your standards. You've raised the bar, now live by it. Could you not explain it? Don't lower it to make others comfortable. You've worked too hard to become this version of yourself. Make decisions that reflect your new standard, and especially when it's inconvenient. 2. Maintain inner stillness. Protect your peace, your clarity, your mental space. Make time for silence, for reflection, for solitude. The world will try to pull you in 1,000 directions. Return to stillness daily, and you'll never lose yourself in the noise. 3. Choose growth over comfort. Every time. Comfort is the enemy of evolution. Don't fear discomfort. Chase it. Seek the edge. Get used to stretching. Whenever you do something that scares you, you train your nervous system to become stronger, more flexible, and more resilient. 4. Remember who you were and why you changed. Never forget the version of you that was tired, stuck, overwhelmed, and full of self-doubt. Let that memory humble you. Let it fuel your hunger, and never go back. You are not that person anymore. But that version of you gave birth to this one. Honor them by continuing forward. And finally, never forget this. You are not finished. You are not fully formed. You are not at your peak. You are just beginning. This breakthrough, this book, is not your destination. It is your foundation. From here you rise higher. From here you get stronger. From here you begin to build the life you once only imagined. But now you don't just dream about it. You build it brick by brick, habit by habit, day by day. Because now you know what was true all along. Your drive is unbreakable. Your strength is real. Your future is in your hands. And nothing, no failure, fear, or storm can stop the person you've decided to become. Unbreakable Drive. Closing message. You've reached the end of Unbreakable Drive, but this is not the end of your journey. It's the beginning of something more substantial, something clearer, something unstoppable. Every word you hear is designed to motivate you and transform how you see yourself, lead your life, and rise through every challenge. If this book spoke to you, if it woke up something inside you, then don't let that fire fade. Revisit these chapters whenever you need clarity. Let them remind you who you are becoming. And above all, let your actions now reflect your unbreakable drive. This audiobook was proudly created by DJA-Audiobook, your channel for powerful, practical, and deeply motivating self-help audio experiences. Thank you for listening and for doing the work that most avoid. You are different, driven, and just getting started. Until next time, and keep rising.